So come with any of your questions related to healthy fats or not, to diabetes, to heart disease or whatever, just put them in the Q&A. And the last thing I want to say is that Dr. Saunders is like the friendly neighbor you always want to talk to, who always has something interesting to say. Today, he's going to give us a lot of great medical advice, but he's not your doctor. So if you think about changing your supplements, your meds, or your routines, please contact your own healthcare provider. And we are here to help, but not to get sued. And that's the bottom line.
We are not responsible.
No, we are not responsible. But we love having you here. Dr. Saunders absolutely loves answering your questions. So don't hold back on your questions. Yeah,
That's
I
right.
do. I do have a question about our topic. Or Jody, do you have anything else you want to add?
Nope, I am good. Get us off
Okay.
and running, Cheryl. Ask the first question, please.
Yes. So we're going to talk about healthy and unhealthy fats. And I definitely remember in when I was younger, everyone had to do the no fat diet or the low fat diet. But I really now that is people prefer full fat. But I want to ask Dr. Saunders, for decades we've been told that fat makes us fat, but now we have a new, fresh, functional health perspective. And so where has the modern society gone wrong with fats?
Oh, that's a really interesting the fact that we were told, yeah, the whole time I was growing up, oh yeah, carbs good, fat bad.
Mhm.
And then there was a book, Good Carbs, Bad Carbs, right? And then but nobody's written the book Good Fat, Bad Fat. At least I haven't seen it. Um, why? The reason that is because for every gram of fat, you get 9 calories. For every gram of carbs, you get 4 calories. So here's the idea. If I eat 100 grams of food and I eat it in fat, I'm going to have 900 calories. But if I eat it in carbs, I only have 400 calories. So that's the idea, right? And so does that make sense? Like if you're eating 100 grams of food, then you want to eat the lower calorie one, right? That's what we're told. And it does make sense, but it's not reality. It's not the way things really work. The way things really work is the hormones that affect our bodies. Our bodies are not determined, but controlled in many ways by the hormones that we have. So, a lot of people are taking injections of something called GLP-1. And this GLP-1, and they're going, wow, I'm losing weight. This is really good. What does this do? It's a hormone that tells your brain, look, you're done eating. Okay, there's nothing to see here. There's no food. You're not interested in food. And then it slows down your stomach, so the stomach doesn't empty very well. So it takes a long time for the stomach to empty. So you feel full longer. So you're not hungry. And it also causes your pancreas to make more insulin. So your blood sugar goes down because you have higher insulin. So it's used for diabetes and for obesity. And wow, couldn't be better, right? That's a hormone. Well, that would be true, except that these analogs don't just turn on the switch. They hit the switch a million times over a week and never stop for a whole week. And so during that period of time, your body starting to go, whoa, too much, can't handle this, and they stop working. So sometimes hormones that even if they do wonderful things, are not really good for your body long term. Let's take another one, insulin. So why does sugar cause you to gain fat and fat does not cause you to gain fat? Doesn't make any sense. You're eating more calories with the fat, you should gain more weight. But in reality, what's really happening is if you eat carbs, you gain more weight because of the hormones. So, this hormone insulin that we were just talking about, insulin tells your body to do not use fat for energy. Block, block, block. No fat. Don't use fat. Just use sugar for energy. Why? Because what the hormone, the signal is you just ate a bunch of sugar. And if you just ate a bunch of sugar, then you've got a lot of sugar in your blood that has to get into your cells. And so your cells are going to be like, oh, got to open up, let the sugar in, and then use the sugar for energy because we got sugar around. And so it makes perfect sense that this hormone is going to say use sugar, don't use fat. Well, if you don't use fat, then what's going to happen to the fat on your body? Well, nothing. But there's actually another little signal that this insulin is doing, and that's saying, okay, now not only are you not going to use fat for energy, you're going to turn this sugar into fat and store it. So as your insulin goes up, you can't use fat for energy, so you have less energy. People go, why do I feel so tired after I eat? How come I have like a ton of fat on my body and it's all pure energy? How come I don't have a bunch of energy? Well, the reason is because of insulin. It's a hormone, and it tells your body that don't use fat. And if you're not using fat, then you just have less energy around to use. You just have less energy. So that's the problem. It's not about exactly just how many calories you eat. Calories in, calories out is not the whole picture. It's a portion of the picture, but it's not the whole picture. The real picture has a lot to do with the hormones that you have in your body. So, if you eat something that has glucose in it, sugar, if it tastes sweet and you make a lot of insulin, then you're not going to burn fat for energy. But if you have, if you're eating fat, then you don't make any insulin. And if you don't make any insulin, then you can use fat for energy and you start burning fat for energy. Do you know this, most people don't realize this because we always talk about quick energy, the sugar being our energy supply. We don't realize that our normal metabolism, the normal metabolic processes use about 60% of our energy from fat and 40% from sugar. 60%. Most of our energy actually comes from fat. And so if you can't burn fat, then you just have less energy because your sugar amount, the sugar that you use doesn't go up very much at all. So because the brain uses sugar, um, and other cells in the body require sugar. But the 60% fat rule means you need to be able to use fat for energy. That's a really important thing for your underlying metabolism, for things to work properly. So fat is very important. So now let's talk about good fats and bad fats. You have some fats are good and some fats are bad. What fats are good? Well, I'm going to have to tell you something that no doctor would ever tell you, and that is saturated fat is good. Saturated fat is the kind of fat you make, and you put it into your cells. And you also make something called omega-9 fats. Uh, and so let's go off here on what is fat. Um, so fat is a long chain carbon. So you have a carbon, a carbon, a carbon, a carbon, a carbon. You have like 18 of them all connected together in this long chain of carbons. And then they have hydrogens on all the way around them. And that long chain we would call a fat. If it's missing one of the hydrogens and then one of the carbons has a double bond going to it where it's connected by two bonds, that's called unsaturated. So if there's one in all these 18 different carbons, if there's only one spot that's got a double bond, then that's monounsaturated, and that's like the omega-9 fats. So, what's the difference between fat and oil? Well, these days, fat is oil. But in the old days, it was a little different. Before they knew how many carbons and saturated and unsaturated and all that, the only way they had to distinguish was how it looked. So, if it was liquid at room temperature, it's called oil. If it's solid at room temperature, it's called fat. And that's how they named it at first. We don't care these days because We're actually looking at the specifics, the molecular structure, and they're all the same. So an oil is fat. So when they say fatty acids, they're talking about all kinds of fatty acids. And in fact, there's some called short chain fatty acids, which is something like acetic acid is could be a short chain, and that's just two carbons. That's all, and that's still called a fatty acid. And it's liquid at room temperature. You know, that's vinegar, right? So vinegar can be also called a fatty acid. And then you have butyrate, which is a three carbon. No, butyrate's two carbon. Anyway, the and all the way up to these 24 and longer chains of carbons called fats. And those are solid at room temperature, and they're generally pretty solid fats. So that's the difference between fats and oils. And lipids is also the same thing. So that's all the same stuff. So when we have um, when we have good fats, we can use those for energy really readily. But then there are bad fats. And what is bad fats? Well, there's two main kinds of bad fats that we have to worry about. One is trans fat. So remember I said they had these double bonds? Well, if the double bond, if the chain comes this way, makes the double bond, and then goes that way, that's called a cis. And if it goes this way and then goes across, it goes down the opposite way, that's called trans. And so because there's two different configurations, and the problem with trans fats is we can't use them for energy. So they sit around and they're actually toxic. They get into the system and they clog the system because they can't be used. So there's always some amount of trans fats around. That's just when fats break down, they can go both ways, and there's some amount of them. But in the in nature, almost all fats are made cis. So when you see trans fats, it's because they're usually being saturated by, like in a laboratory or in a factory, where they take these fats that are unsaturated and they try to saturate them to make them solid at room temperature. So if you've ever heard of Crisco oil, um, Crisco oil or Crisco, it's not lard. What did they call it? The Crisco
Shortening.
Shortening.
shortening. Yeah, that. Um, what they first did is they would take these oils like canola oil, and they would then they have a couple of double bonds in there, and they put hydrogen on there, but some of them become trans fats. And these higher levels of trans fats become toxic to humans. And so it wasn't the same. Having shortening, vegetable shortening was not the same as using lard. So lard came from an animal, and they said, oh, that's just the same thing. It's not the same thing because the shortening, vegetable shortening, has trans fats. And that's what most of the like French fries, potato chips, they last longer if they're made with trans fats. And they want people that are manufacturing these foods and engineering these foods, they want a long shelf life. They want them to last on the shelf for a long period of time so they don't have to throw them away if people don't buy them right away. So then that's a good thing, right? Except that it's toxic. And so they're making it toxic to people. The other bad fat is called omega-6. Now, that's another thing that people are going to disagree with me on, right? Because omega-6 is an essential fatty acid. We have to have omega-6 to live. We can't live without it. The problem is, what happens is all of the fats in the that we can eat have have omega-6 in them. but few fats have omega-3 in them. And we need a balance of omega-3 and omega-6. You have to have about the same amount of omega-3, omega-6. The reason is because omega-6 makes inflammation. Omega-3 suppresses inflammation. Well, you don't want to make a bunch of inflammation, then you're going to get autoimmune disease, inflammatory conditions, even diabetes, arthritis, all these itises. Any itis is inflammation, right? And so if you have high omega-6 and low omega-3, you can't suppress the inflammation, you're going to get some kind of inflammatory condition. But if you have a really high omega-3 and low omega-6, then you're going to suppress the ability for the immune system to create inflammation so that you can fight off infections and get rid of problems of damage that's been done in the body. So you need this balance in it, and it has to balance properly. Um, the problem is that almost all oils, especially seed oils, nut oils, anything that comes from grain, is really high in omega-6 and very low in omega-3. So in the United States, we tend to have around 10 times more omega-6 in our bodies than omega-3. That's really not good. If you look at oils, like corn oil is 30 times more omega-6 than omega-3. And people go, "Oh, I eat nuts, right? So almonds are 40 times more omega-6 than omega-3."
Uh-oh.
So it's not that it's not easy to get omega-3. There's only three sources of omega-3. Count them, three. Chia seeds, flax seeds, and fish. And the fish do not make omega-3. The fish eat the plankton, and the plankton makes omega-3. And the fish eat the plankton, and that's where they get it. So farmed fish have lower omega-3. And what's interesting is grass has 6 times more omega-3 than omega-6, right? So you could eat grass. Problem is, you can't get a lot of energy out of grass, but cows have four stomachs and they can get energy out of grass. And so if they're grass-fed beef, then you have a better omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. And how much they have depends on how much corn they've eaten in their life, because if they're getting corn-fed, the corn, remember, has 30 times omega-6. And no animal in the world makes omega oils. None. Zero. None. So everything comes from plants. So what you eat determines how much omega-6 and omega-3 you have. And so balancing those out is kind of difficult. So number one, avoid things that are high in omega-6. And so that would be nut oils, seed oils. Sesame oil is like pure omega-6 with no omega-3. But flaxseed and chia seeds are okay. The problem is that they oxidize really easily and make trans fats, and so they go rancid pretty easily. So they have to be kept in the refrigerator. You have to use them up right away, and you can't cook with them because if you heat them, then they go rancid. So the ones that you can cook with are saturated fats. So butter is great, coconut oil, palm oil. The saturated fats are the ones that you can cook with. And then the flaxseed oil. I've never seen chia seed oil. Have either of you ever seen chia seed oil? No.
Oh, I haven't.
Yeah. Anyway, so ideally you would want to eat the whole flax seeds and the whole chia seeds, and you put them in a grinder and you grind them up and put them in your cereal or on your salad or in your shake or smoothie or whatever. And that's how you get it. One doctor who cured her lupus did it with chia seeds and flax seeds, and she just makes a smoothie every day with kale and some berries and chia seeds and flax seeds, and she cut out all the animal stuff because um, uh, because they have arachidonic acid, which is one of the omega-6 oils, and completely reversed her lupus, and recommends that other people do that.
Wow.
Um,
When you're talking
so
about the chia and the flax
yeah,
seeds,
yeah,
you can't heat them, so putting them in your banana bread is not going to
yeah.
benefit you. But what are you talking about? Like, so if I am putting it in my smoothie on my yogurt, are we talking a couple tablespoons a day, or like what amount like are you shooting for?
Good question. So this doctor that cured her lupus uses a quarter to a half a cup a day
Oh wow.
of
Okay, I
chia
need to
seeds
up
or flax
it. I'm
seeds.
not.
So
Okay.
if you put a quarter of a cup of flax seeds in a grinder and put that in your oatmeal or something, you cook the oatmeal first and then put the flax meal on it afterward. That works pretty well.
All right. I guess I need to increase then.
Yeah.
I had heard recently that the reason why sunflowers and corn create such good oil is because the condition of the soil is so bad as a result of all the pesticides we've put on them that the sunflower seeds and the corn actually use and eat up the toxins, which actually make themselves toxic.
Hmm.
Is that a
Oh.
possibility?
It's possible because it does make a difference. Further down the food chain, so I don't know if how much of that is toxic because yes, that happens. They do take up the toxins. People, they've measured urine levels of these toxins, pesticides, and all that kind of stuff in the urine of people who eat organic, where there's no pesticides used, versus those who eat, I was going to say inorganic, but non-organic foods, the traditional or standard stuff. And there is a difference in measuring these toxins in the urine of the people who eat them. So yes, it goes up the food chain from the soils where they're grown, coming up into the oils of the plants, and then from there going to the people.
What about beef tallow as a source? Is that a fat?
Yeah, that's actually a really good fat. And it's a saturated fat. It's good for you. It doesn't have a lot of omega oils in it. It doesn't have omega-3 or omega-6. Very tiny amounts, mostly omega-6, between 4 and 11 times more omega-6, but with very tiny amounts. And so amount is important because we're looking at ratios. And so if you have a very tiny amount of omega-6 in like beef tallow, and then you have, a tablespoon of flax seeds, that's gonna easily balance out whatever is in your butter or tallow.
Okay.
What
Oh.
about coconut oil?
Mm.
Yeah, coconut oil also has some omega-6 and almost no omega-3 or none at all. And it's saturated fat, and so you can cook with it. It's pretty healthy. There's medium chain triglycerides, which there's short chain, which is 2, 3, 4 carbons long, long chain, which is in the 20s, and then these medium chains, which are the 10s, long. And those go straight into your liver and are made into ketones, and so they can initiate ketosis. Coconut oil is actually pretty good for you, as far as that part goes.
Mm.
We had a popcorn stand in our town when I was growing up, and they popped the popcorn in coconut oil. It was amazing. It was so good.
Okay, that's actually a really good point. When you use coconut oil, it'll last longer. So if you use like a corn oil or something like that, then it goes rancid pretty quickly, and it doesn't keep its crunch very long. Whereas the saturated fats help it to keep its crunch. It'll last longer. And it tastes better.
Mm.
So And so that's why they started using they started taking the corn oil and making it into a saturated fat, and that's where so that they could make all of these foods like popping popcorn, but all of the other stuff, frying stuff in that because it lasts longer and it makes it taste better. It doesn't get soggy as quickly if you use saturated fat.
Okay. Are there certain fats that become unhealthy if you cook them at high temperatures? Like, do they change?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, they change. So the ones that are unsaturated, because they're unsaturated, they can change at a lower temperature. And one of the changes that they make is to oxidize. And this oxidation is what we call rancidity or rancidity. And those kinds of fats they cause inflammation in the body. So the things that you don't want to heat up are the ones that are high in polyunsaturated fats. So the oils that have like polyunsaturated would be like a lot of omega-6 or a lot of omega-3. You don't want to take flaxseed oil and heat it up. That will make a lot of oxidation and cause a lot of rancid oils. So yes, once you heat them up, they become bad. But things that you can use for heating would be the monounsaturated fats, where they just have one double bond, and that would be avocado oil and olive oil. Are mostly omega-9. They have very little amounts of omega-6 and omega-3.
Okay. Okay, so in line with the omegas again, we have a couple questions. I'm going to group them together here. So Melinda says she wants to know how much omega-3 to take. She has powdered, but then Luz in the chat also said that the supplement with omega-3 and 6 is it not recommended? So a little confusion on supplements
Oh,
and omegas. So can you maybe you can probably clear both those up.
yes. Thank you for asking that because a lot of people are paying money for omega-6 fatty acids. Don't be doing those things. That's not the way it should go. Um, because it'll tell you, oh, this is essential fatty acids, and all it has is canola oil in it, because canola oil has some omega-3 and some omega-6, and it'll tell you, and then it has some omega-9, and so it'll tell you that. Um, no, don't get the ones that say EFAs or essential fatty acids. That's not what you want. What you want is omega-3 because it's really easy to get omega-6. What you need to balance is getting enough omega-3 and decrease as much as possible the omega-6. So avoiding anything that has omega-6 and then taking omega-3. Good. Yeah. So when you do a supplement, don't take the EFA. That's a bad supplement.
Yeah, I want to take a moment and do a plug because we do have an omega-3 supplement that Dr. Saunders helped formulate.
Yeah.
Does not have omega-6. It is wild caught fish and it does have lemon essence. Now, I'm someone who does not like fish. I do not like fish at all, and I get no fishy taste. That's some complaints about people who take fish oil, but this has a lemon flavor, so it's good tasting as well. So I did put a link in the chat for it, and just to remind you that use the code webinar 25 for 25% off.
By the way, that when we formulated that, we were looking at options, and they have options for lemon flavoring. And this is just it's called
Lemon
cit what?
No, go
The
ahead.
the lemon essence is citrulline. It's just the oil from the outside of the skin of the lemon. And so it's an oil too. It's not an essential fatty acid, but it's really good for your body. So on its own, it's helpful. It's very tiny amounts, but it's good.
Yeah.
We have another question about amounts of the chia. So Sib wants to know, can you overdo the chia?
I don't think you can overdo the chia. First of all, if you're just using chia seeds, you got to know that the majority of them, unless you're grinding them up carefully, the majority of them are going through you and going out the other end. So I don't think you can overdo chia. I don't think you can overdo flax seeds either. The worst that could happen is you could get like diarrhea or something. But no, no. You got to consider like the amount of oil. If you just take a French fry, like next time you go get French fries, take one French fry and squeeze it, and you just the oil's dripping out of it, and that's all. Well, it's mostly saturated fat, but it's just omega-6 with saturated fat. And so we get a lot of omega-6, like I said, 10 times more omega-6 than omega-3. So trying to get your omega-3 up to that is really hard. And that's where um, that doctor, I'm still blanking on her name, that cured her lupus. And she's like, no, you need a quarter of a cup, in your smoothie. This is like,
Elaine says that she puts her chia seeds in water and lets them soak, and then she drinks it. What are your thoughts on that?
oh, I think that's fine. In that case, you don't get a lot of the oils. You get very little of the oils. But the reason to do it that way is the carbohydrate that's on the outside as a lignin that is actually really good for you. It grows the good bacteria in your intestines. So that's a prebiotic, and it's really good for you. The chia seed's doing it that way. But unless you grind them up, you don't really get a lot of the oils out of them.
Okay. All right.
When I was little, we had something called chia pets.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Did you hear about chia pets?
The chia.
Hmm.
Oh, around Christmas, you had the ads that had all the hair ones, the pet.
Hmm.
I mean, all the different chia pets. I never had one.
At one point, I remember you saying it's good to rotate your omegas, flax, chia, fish. What is that a good idea and why?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me about that, the and I often tell people when you finish one bottle, buy a different type the next time. So if you have like your fish oil one, and then get flax seeds or chia seeds the next time. So they're different. They're actually different oils, and they do different things in the body. So the seeds are arachidonic acid, and the fish oils are EPA, DHA, and the arachidonic acid can be made into the EPA, which is then made into DHA. And the different types of omega-3s do different things in your body, and sometimes you may need one more than the other. However, the reason we chose to do fish oil exclusively in the Barton product is because the arachidonic acid isn't always. Some people have a problem with this delta 6 desaturase getting the uh, arachidonic acid to be made into the EPA and then the DHA. And so when that was provided, there were some studies that showed when that was provided separately, especially DHA, it helped the brain to function better, and it decreased inflammation in the brain and other fatty areas of the body, the membranes of the body. So that it's still, I think, if you're going to do uh, you don't have to like do it differently. What I do personally is I have either chia seeds or flax seeds in my smoothie, and then I take the DHA, EPA, the fish oil supplement.
Okay. Kevin wants to know, how does one cleanse or eliminate the trans fat since we don't utilize these fats in our body? So how do we get rid of it?
Good question. Okay. Your body will get rid of them gradually over time. So if you don't take them in, then they're going to gradually decrease and go away. You don't have to do anything special. Eventually, they'll be all gone. So, and you're never going to avoid all of them. So, I measure people, and I've seen people really low, but I've never seen anybody with zero.
Someone asks, what about salmon oil?
Yeah, salmon oil is great. And it's a good fish oil. It's got a lot of EPA and DHA. And a lot, if you get the salmon oil that's from farmed salmon, it generally has more uh, omega 6 in it. Because the meal that they feed, because they have to feed, in a farm, they have to feed the fish. It's not, they're not just eating like in the open ocean. So the feed that they throw in there does have fish meal in it. But it also includes some seeds like well, rape seeds, canola, which has some omega-6, and corn, which has omega-6.
All right. Rosalind asks, can you take too much of the oils? If you fish and you take a fish oil, should you do one or the other? Can you get too much? And if so, what's that look?
Yeah, probably not. Uh, your body is made to take in oil and use it because oil is such a good source of so many things. We think of fats as like the energy source, and that's what I started out with, as the fats as energy source. But there's so many things in your body that require fats. All of your hormones are, well, not all of your hormones. There's peptide hormones, but there's a lot of steroid hormones that are all based on fats. And then you have all of your membranes of your cells. In fact, if you think about it, when you do a test on your omega oil, so if you do an essential fatty acid test, you go to your doctor and ask for that. What they do is they draw your blood, and they take all they uh, put it in a blender, blend it all up, take all the water out and all the fat, and then they measure what kinds of fats are in there, and they can tell you. But think about it; these cells have been around for less than 3 months, and so this is your what you've eaten over the last 3 months determines what your cells are made out of. And that's the membranes of your cells that they're using. And so you're making these cells constantly by whatever you happen to be eating that day. So the fats are really important. Can you overdo it? Well, I don't know. You could live on fat, but you'd be missing a lot of vitamin C and stuff if you did. So vitamins and proteins and stuff that you also need. But yeah, you could eat a lot of fat.
Since you're talking about fat, I have a kind of a separate question. I have a friend who has been smoking marijuana for 10 years, and she's trying to get out of her system. And she said that it's stuck in her fat cells and it can take up to 90 days to get it out. But you were just talking about the fat cells, that what you eat makes up your fat cells. Is it also what you ingest, something like marijuana too, in your fat cells?
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of, and especially things like marijuana has THC, CBD, and these are fat soluble. So that if they're fat soluble, they're going to end up in the fat. And that idea of 90 days is the idea of the turnover of fat in your cells. You could turn it over more quickly if you're fasting and you're getting uh, the using fat out of your cells. Then your turnover is going to go up because you're using fat. And a lot of doctors have said, in fact, we were told in medical school to be careful of fasting because it mobilizes a lot of toxins that are stored in the fat. But the main toxins that are stored in the fat are because people eat at night right before they go to bed. And if the kitchen is shut down, we're done, we're not processing anything. If you eat something, then it's going to go into your blood and it's just going to get stored away in the fat because it's not being processed or detoxed by the liver right away because the liver is shut down for the night. So yeah, the fat does store toxins. But yeah, you got to get them out somehow. So letting them come out by using fat, that's a good idea.
Kimberly in the chat wants to know if it's okay to take the Ceylon cinnamon capsules with the omega-3.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, well, but there's no contradiction. They're compatible, and the reason is because the omega-3 is fatty acid. It's digested differently. The cinnamon extract, cinnachroma, is a water soluble extract, so it's not going to be affected by the fat at all. Shouldn't be.
Kimberly, I don't know if you meant to say cinnamon, but we do have a supplement called Cinnachroma. And since you asked that question, we also have a cheat sheet on what you can take together and when. So if anybody would like that cheat sheet, please email us at support@bartonpublishing.com and you can take your supplements safely together and know what's okay and when to take them.
Excellent.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to ask a question from Eric. Is it true that we should stop using metformin because it causes so many negative side effects? I'm on Zepbound for both my diabetes and for weight loss. Should I continue using this substance? I tried Ozempic for a while, but it caused severe digestive issues, so my healthcare provider switched me to Zepbound for my diabetes. Was this a good choice?
Okay. Well, they're very similar. Okay, so first of all, let's answer the first question, and that is, should you be taking metformin? Um, metformin does prevent you from building muscle, so I think it's not a good long-term solution. And so, if I had a choice, we do have something called berberine that you can get at Barton Nutrition as well. And berberine, if you take it 2 or even 3 times a day, is going to be just as effective as a metformin without the side effects. So I usually prefer that myself. You'll have to talk to your doctor about that. Um, Now let's ask about the Zepbound versus Ozempic. Um, the Zepbound works by increasing the insulin more than Ozempic does, and so it still works sort of in the same way. It still works on GLP-1. It's still overstimulating. It still lasts for a week, as opposed to your natural hormones, GLP-1, or both of the peptide hormones that the Zepbound works on last for a minute or two in the body. I mean, it's just a switch to turn on, and that's all it does, as opposed to the medication that is continuously stimulating. So what happens over time is your body just gets resistant to it and just goes, okay, that doesn't, I'm not going to even listen to you anymore. You're overstimulating me, and I'm not going to listen to you anymore. So then it just quits working. Usually within about a year, it's done. And so the amount of weight you lose is minimal. It's 15% is expected, and then 50% of the weight you lose is lean body mass. You're not even losing fat. And so, because of that, I do not recommend any of those medications. It's not a long-term solution. It's a short-term solution for a long-term problem. But with this, it's not like you can use it again and again. It just stops working and it doesn't work anymore. And so you don't lose. I mean, you lose what, 20 pounds, and that's it, and you can't go anymore. And then you stop and you gain it all back, but you don't gain your muscle back. That's the problem. So now you're weaker, you have less muscle, your metabolism is lower, and you gain all the weight back, and you have no options. Like there's nothing else you can use for that because you've destroyed that system. So I just think that this is really not a good trend, and I can see actually in Home Cures That Work, we looked at this and looked at going back, 100 years in the early late 1800s when they were using tapeworms to lose weight. Nothing has changed since then. They're still advertising this stuff in the same way they advertise tapeworms. If you look at the ad, it's exactly the same stuff. No side effects, guaranteed weight loss. You can eat all you want. It's all the same things.
Too good to be true.
Yeah, yeah. And so what they're going to find out is exactly that what they found out with the fen-phen diet and the amphetamines and all the other stuff that they use. They're going to find out the same thing, that it does more harm than good.
Okay. All right. Judy wants to know, does fat affect Alzheimer's? And what is good to help with memory loss?
Oh, that is a good question. Um, fat definitely affects Alzheimer's.
Mm.
Um, the types of fats you eat, okay, there's two ways to look at this. Does fat affect Alzheimer's? In other words, if I'm a fat person, am I more likely to get Alzheimer's? And you get more inflammation the more fat you have. So that by itself can contribute to it. And then the types of fat that you eat. If you eat a lot of omega-6, you're going to get more inflammation, and the brain is really sensitive to this inflammation. And the brain, remember, is made out of fat too. And so the fat that you're eating goes to your brain, and all of your new cells are being made out of this fat. And if it's inflammatory fat, then you're going to have more inflammation, which is going to lead to more neuropathy, including Alzheimer's and dementia. So yes, that's part of it. However, there's the other side of it. That's why I'm thinking about this. If you burn fat for energy, like you're eating a whole bunch of fat and you're burning it for energy, that will reverse Alzheimer's. So multiple studies have shown that if you're eating sugar with your fat, then you're just going to burn sugar and store the fat, and that causes Alzheimer's. But if you take out the sugar and eat the fat and you burn the fat for energy, you make something called ketone bodies. These ketone bodies are the basis of what we call a ketogenic diet. And if you want to cure Alzheimer's and neuropathies of various kinds, and now there's some really good research on reversing schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, attention deficit disorder, starting off with the foundation of burning fat. Go to the diabetes solution kit and just start on phase one, because that's what it is. It's a ketogenic diet to start your brain functioning better and reverse Alzheimer's disease.
Okay, I'm putting the link to the Diabetes Solution Kit right now in the chat. And I also put a link to Dr. Saunders' GLP-1 article in Home Cures at Work. And let me tell you, this is a must read. Like, everybody knows someone who's on a GLP-1 medication. It's something you need to be informed about and be educated about, to talk about with your friends and family who's on it. And then another question that's kind of related to both Alzheimer's and the previous question is, does metformin cause dementia?
Okay. Um, I don't know of any studies about metformin causing dementia. If you think about where dementia comes from metabolically, um, it- when you have high insulin levels over a long period of time, your insulin receptors decrease, and the glucose transport proteins decrease over time as well. And those glucose transport proteins are what brings glucose into your brain. So you have high blood sugar and your brain is starving because it needs sugar. And your insulin blocks you from burning fat. You can't burn fat. You can't make ketones. If you can't make ketones and you don't have sugar, your brain doesn't have any energy, so it shrinks. And so the radiologists do all these MRI scans on people's brains, and they say, the brain is shrunken the normal amount for your age. Okay, the brain should not shrink. It's not supposed to shrink. But we have so many people in our society that are insulin resistant that it's we call it normal for the brain to shrink when you get older. Okay, not a good thing. So, does metformin contribute to that? I don't think it does. I think that metformin tells your body to use fat for energy. You'll tend to make more ketones. Um, and it really, the problems that it has is really blocking the liver and muscles. And that's been shown. There was another one, fenformin, that was an old one that they had to take off the market because people were getting their muscles were just breaking down, their liver was breaking down because it blocked the energy to them too much.
Very interesting. All right, so we have time for about one more question before we have to let you go. So I would say a good final question would be if you could give our audience just one single high impact dietary change they can make starting tomorrow morning that can immediately begin shifting their fat intake from unhealthy to healthy, what would the practical step be and why?
Okay, simplest thing, don't eat processed foods. That's
Ooh,
all. Just
we
avoid
are
anything.
surrounded by processed foods.
Yeah, yeah. So eat everything in its natural state, and you're going to get the good kind of oils. Like I said, grass has 6 times more omega-6 and omega-3. Well, guess what? All of the things that are like that, like all the rabbit food, right, is going to have the 6 times more omega-6, omega-3 than omega-6. So you're going to have better fats and oils if you just get off all of the processed foods because they're the ones that contain the trans fats, the omega-6 fats, and the rancid oils, and the oxidized LDL and all that stuff. So if you avoid processed foods and don't go to restaurants, you will have a good you have a much better balance of omega-6 to omega-3.
All right, that is something very practical. We can each start tomorrow, eliminate or at least cut back on those processed foods for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Saunders, for your time today. I just want to remind everybody that we're not going to be here for a couple weeks. This is the last session of 2025. So, oh, I was going to wish him a happy new year,
Yeah.
Christmas, but I bet he had some patients that he needed to see. But in a minute, I'm going to tell you all about a survey that is going to appear just as soon as we're done here. It should appear as soon as you log off of Zoom. And it's going to help you help us know what you're wanting to be talking about as we get ready for 2026. So don't leave just yet. But before we do that, I know we've covered a lot today and it's a lot of information to put together. And Cheryl's got a great way that we can help you kind of digest some of this information and make a plan for you.
Yeah, we don't often talk about it, but we do have coaching available that's free, and it's probably one of the valuable things that we often at Bar that we offer at Barton Nutrition. You get a free call with one of our expert coaches. They go over your unique situation, like what supplements you're taking, what are your current goals, what are your nutrition habits, do you have any challenges that someone might need to know, and then they kind of come up with a complete game plan that fits you. They'll help you with what's working, what's not working. You don't have to be a member per se with Barton, but I want to stress that it's a valuable thing that we offer. So one of us will I see Jody's already put that link in the chat. So again, spots fill up. Did I say that right? So
Mhm.
go ahead and grab a time that works best for you. And you know what? It's coming to the new year. Whether you do New Year's resolutions or not, taking care of yourself is always a priority. Don't wait to start. Think about it now. Something you could probably use going into the new year. So give it a try for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cheryl. And yeah, just also a reminder too, something new that we're starting to do is if you ever miss any of these links and you're brushing your teeth tonight and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't grab that link out of the Zoom chat. We are posting all of the links in our well, if you go out to YouTube and you search Barton Publishing webinars, we'll be adding the links that we shared in today's episode in the description area for each webinar. So all you need to do is search for us. And today's episode is 311. Someone asked that earlier. So you can also search through the archives there of past webinars. There's some great information to share, to rewatch, and all that. So share it with your family and friends. And it's something you can be doing over the next 2 weeks when you won't be with us while we're off for the holidays. So before we go, all right, we do want to hear from you about 2026 topics. What do you want to hear from Dr. Saunders? What do you want him to teach on? So there's going to be a super easy and quick survey that's going to pop up right after you close Zoom. And it's really easy. It just gives you, I think, 9 or 10 topic possibilities that you're going to rate like from 1 to 5. 5, like, yes, let's cover that. And 1, I'm not interested at all. And then there's a spot at the end where you can add any suggestions that you have for topics. So please make sure that you do that. We want this webinar to work for you. We want it to be a help for you. We want to help you more and help you to grow and just really continue on a journey of hope and healing. So please take the time to complete that survey and have a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year. And we look forward to seeing you back here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. Merry Christmas, Jody, and to everyone who joins regularly and anyone who's new. We're very glad you're here. We hope you got something useful to take away. Always come back. Well, in 2026, put your questions in. Like I said, Dr. Saunders answers your question, loves answering your questions. So please come back and we want to hear from you.
Absolutely. All right. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye all.